Aloha mai kako. Welcome everyone to the Moana Nui podcast. My name is Moana and I'm excited today to be talking about one of the things that Hawaiians love the most, food. And where can we find it, especially for those of us who live on the continent? So tonight
Oh, yes.
we're yeah. So I could go for some right now. Who has a poke bowl, like a real one?
Yes, me and you both, sis. Me and you both.
Definitely. So, of course, it's always good when Dana and I can be together here on the show. So, good to see you again, sis. Welcome.
As always, for those that are joining the show for the first time, of course, I'm Dana, the other half of the Moana Nui podcast. And then, of course, we have our multifaceted, multi-talented, the founder of this podcast, the award-winning children's book author, also behind the new Lilo and Stitch comic book series. We have the other half of the Moana Nui podcast, the beautiful, the multi-talented Moana.
Too much, too much. But it's not about me, it's about the community. So tonight I'm excited to have our friend Matt Kamara join us tonight. He's going to be hosting and leading our show. Matt is the founder of actually a lot of things. If you don't know him yet, the Frozen Ohana, that is not Hawaiian. He has a ton of awesome Facebook groups, some of the best Facebook groups I've seen run. It's not just like people spamming. These are engaging conversations and entertaining, educational, a lot of all kinds of different stuff. But if you're a part of the community, you should definitely join him. Let's bring Matt on the show. I'm excited to have him. He's such a wonderful leader of conversations. And in this particular area, he has three awesome, amazing chefs joining us today from all different parts of the continent. If you're looking for it, here they are. Welcome, Matt. Aloha, ikumamai.
Yes, thank you for having me on.
Good to see you. Alrighty, so Matt's going to be leading our conversation tonight. If you guys have questions, comments, drop them in the chat. We want to hear those. I want this to be engaging conversation. But with all that said, Matt, over to you. Aloha.
Right on. This is going to be a good one, you guys. We're really looking forward to this. Welcome to Hawaii Eats in the Diaspora, brought to you by the Moana Nui podcast in partnership with Papa Ola Lokahi. I'm Matt Kamara, as they said. And I'm really thrilled to bring three industry giants into this conversation with us today. We're going to hear from Chef Brunton Achiu, Brother Kalani Mack, one of the owners of a food restaurant chain that we'll be talking about, Mo Betta's Hawaiian Food, and the one and only Chef Kaimana Chee will be joining us as we explore the roots of Hawaiian cuisine and its global rise in popularity. How you guys doing?
Aloha, Matt.
Mahalo for having us.
Aloha.
Right on. So I'm going to share a little bit of history, a little bit of reference to our three guest panelists here, and we'll get right into this. Chef Brunton Achiu, born and raised in Hawaii, McKinley High School graduate, 1971. Been in the culinary industry since 1968. Worked at almost all major hotels in Waikiki. University Hawaii graduate. Majored in marine biology before moving to California in 1981, where he mostly worked in the major resorts, large convention centers, specializing in Japanese, French cuisine. And he opened their third floor, Anaheim, 1984, John Domino's, and 1988 in Newport Beach. Welcome, Chef Brunton.
How's that?
Moving on here, my good brother, Kalani Mack, born and raised Honolulu, Queens Medical Center. Hapa, dad was from Northern Utah, local girl from Kauai, Hawaiian Korean. You lived in Alewa Heights. Oh, until your ninth grade, and then you moved to the windward side, where you graduated from the mighty Castle High School. James B. Castle High School in 1987. I got a lot of family that went Castle. City bus operator for Oahu Transit Services, the bus, 1991 through 1998. And then he moved, a wife and two children, to Salt Lake City. And the story really gets moving there. It sounds like it was a tough time, some Chapter 11 things, and he did some Del Mar taco stand for one day. And then you moved right into it and opened up Mo Betta's. in 2008 with your brother. So
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
everybody,
And
welcome.
thank you. Thank you for not referring to me as a chef, because I'm humbled. I am really humbled to be on with Brunton and Kaimana,
Yeah.
because I'm not a chef. I am Zippy's trained. If you want to say, and I learned from my aunties, and I am not a chef per se, but I just love to eat. I'm like all the Hawaiians out there. Right?
Yep.
I just love to eat.
But the experience working at Zippy's in Kaneohe,
I did
that's
during
why.
high school. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make me a chef. No, nowhere close, but I like to eat. Yeah. So that's the extent of my training. But I'm humbled to be on here with Brunton and Kamana for sure. And I'm happy that you included me on this. So I'll share whatever I have for sure.
And that brings us to Chef Kaimana Chee. Chef Kaimana is the owner of Chef Kaimana LLC, executive chef of Uncle's Hawaiian Grinds, a modern Hawaiian restaurant located in Falston, Maryland. Over the last decade, Chef Kaimana has traveled to over 40 countries as a chef and brand ambassador for several companies, including Grounded Foods, Eat Just, Blue California, Ingredients, and Good Meat. A native of Hawaii, Chef Kaimana identifies his multi-ethnic upbringing as one of the key contributing factors in developing his passion for food, starting his professional culinary journey on a food truck nearly 2 decades ago. Chef Kaimana has since earned a collection of culinary accolades that include numerous television appearances, and this is where a lot of people might be looking at him right now on their screen saying, he looks really familiar. Where do I know him from? Here we go. Television appearances, culinary competitions. Among those highlights, MasterChef USA Season 3, Food Network's Guys Grocery Games, and Cutthroat Kitchen in 2021. Chef Kaimana was also an integral member of the first team to launch the commercial sale of cultured lab-grown meat in the country of Singapore. He is among the first chefs in the world to ever cook and serve cultured chicken. Chef Kaimana was born and raised in the towns of Hauula and Laie on the north shore of Oahu. He is a graduate of the Kahuku High School and attended Boise State University. Beyond his culinary passions, Chef Kaimana is the kumu hula for halau Nohona, Hawaii, located in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia region. Chef Kaimana is a published author of a children's book entitled Tots on Flavor, available through Amazon.com. Television appearances and awards. 2019 Critics Restaurant Award for Best of Baltimore, Maryland. 2019 Maryland Restaurant Association Chef of the Year finalist. 2018 Best New Restaurant, Hartford County, Maryland. 2017 Third Annual Chef Chase Challenge. First place, 2017 American Health Association's Featured Celebrity Chef, 2016 Food Network Guys Grocery Games. Fan Favorite Redemption Tournament, 2016 Food Network's Cutthroat Kitchen, Season 10, Episode 11. Winner, 2015 Smithsonian's Iron Chef Competition. Winner, 2015 Food Network's Guys Grocery Games. Runner-up to 2015's Macy's Chef of the Cherry Blossom Festival, and 2012 Fox MasterChef Season 3 contestant. Everybody welcome Chef Kaimana Chee.
Mahalo. Mahalo, everybody.
All right, so let's just jump right into this because as Moana and Dana mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, we love to eat. Food is a major driving force in so many different avenues when it comes to Hawaiian culture. So let's jump right into it. The roots of Hawaiian cuisine. We'll start with Kaimana. In your opinion, what are the roots to Hawaiian cuisine?
I think when we look at Hawaiian cuisine and the history chronologically, we have to look at pre-Western contact and then the initial contact in 1778 by Captain Cook and the Po'e Haole. And then we have to look at immigration that happened between 1850 and 1950, because those three stages brought different food to Hawaii, different cooking techniques, right? And so Hawaiian cuisine has evolved as new ingredients and new cooking styles and new techniques were brought in from non-Hawaiians or from non-Polynesians. So I think when we look at it, and I would love to hear take on this as well, because the uncle status over there, he was cooking before I was born, right? But when we look at Hawaiian cuisine and what are the roots of it, it comes from what the voyagers from the Marquesas and Tahiti could bring on the boat. Didn't have protein, didn't really have protein on the island when they got here. So the protein that they brought, besides fish and seafood, never have land protein. So the roots of Hawaiian food comes from what could fit on that canoe, plus the vegetation and the fruits that were already on the aina when they arrived. And we as Hawaiians, we often forget the poke we eat today and the stuff we eat today is not what our Hawaiian ancestors ate. Very little of it is what they ate, right? So I think to look at Hawaiian food, we have to look at all the people that came to Hawaii and everything they brought. And that's a whole long discussion. So I'll defer to my amazing counterparts to add to that. But we can go into the details of who brought what, and the Portuguese and the Filipinos and the Japanese and the Chinese. But it started right after 1778. People don't realize the order of things. We had the whalers brought salted fish, which became Lomi Salmon, before the Chinese brought char siu bao, which became which became Manapua. A lot of people don't know that history of the timeline of how things got to Hawaii. But I would love to hear everybody else's take on that. I don't want to take up too much of that time.
No, and those are great points, Kaimana, that I think are extremely important for us to bring up and share that knowledge with a lot of people, because as you mentioned, not a lot of people understand that. I see the conversation happens a lot on social media because social media is so prevalent these days about what is Hawaiian food, and this isn't Hawaiian food and this isn't Hawaiian food. And I think one of the biggest pieces that a lot of people may be missing is that Hawaiian food has evolved, like you mentioned, right? Because we all know that Hawaii it's an island in the middle of the ocean, and with what wasn't already growing there had to be imported and brought in. So those are great points. Chef Brunson, anything to add on that? The roots of Hawaiian cuisine. A big one I want to throw out is this: poke. Poke. The conversation that I have a lot through the days, and I am far from any type of food aficionado or chef or anything, but I know that the poke that we see today, cubes, sliced crosswise, ahi, taco, and etc. But from what I understand, poke at its origin was actually reef fish. And
That's
so
correct.
that might be
That's
something
correct.
that a lot of people don't know. The reef fish
That's
was
correct.
actually scraped. So maybe
Yeah.
we could lead into that, Brunson, on
Okay.
origins of Hawaiian food.
Okay, so the Polynesians, all they had was an emu to cook. That the basic right there. And then the luau's and all that came. But getting to the poke on the reef fish, that's actually correct, because, with my dad growing up in Wailua, man, poke was inui nui. I don't know if you guys ever had that fish, but it's hard to eat. I got used to it. And then the scraping of the fish was the o'io and the ava. And we made that into lomi. Lomi o'io, lomi ava, and then, of course, the Chinese would turn that into fish cake. So that's how I grew up with the inamona, the limokohu. We used to go pick up at Sand Island as kids. So I grew up the old school Hawaiian way through my dad. I mean, eating pink poi. If you guys ever had pink poi, that's bubbling already, man, Stuff like that. Ake, the raw liver.
It sounds like ake is, I don't know, maybe for a lack of better words, but it sounds like ake is regaining popularity.
Could be. I've been up here so long. My dad's sister, my Auntie Ruth, was the king of making aki, soaking in water for hours to get all the blood out. That's the main thing of making aki. And making lu. Back then, we used to salt our own butterfish. The butterfish came from Alaska. The black cod, up here, the howleys, they call them sable, yeah? But we used to salt everything. Even the short ribs for salt beef watercress. Yeah. But the poke back then to the poke now is truly different. I think probably during the 70s, it gained really big popularity because we used to go down to the Ala Moana's Farmers Market on Ward Avenue, and then had Hiley's down there. Haile's Hawaiian Food, which she's retiring at the end of June. Her lease is going up. She's in Kapahulu right now. But that's where I first got the taste of that, the tuna making like that. And unless you went to the Korean bars back then, because they was making poke like that.
Yep. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad that we were able to touch on that. It's when we take poke, for example, we're talking about origins of scraped reef fish all the way through what we know as poke growing up to what it is now, and you got poke still in Hawaii with a ton of different flavors and styles. And then you got these fusion type poke bowls that offer these toppings and fillings and things like that. And I'll tell you quickly, one of the things that I like to mention during conversations is that neither are wrong or right. It's just different. Some are different.
Yeah.
If we talk to somebody who grew up eating poke as inui nui, right?
Yeah.
And we're over here eating ahi poke, they might look at us and be like, that's not poke. And then it's the same thing that we're doing to people with these fusion style poke bowls. So it's a good point to bring up that in reality, everything evolved.
You just gotta be open-minded. That's the big thing of food. You gotta be just open-minded.
So Kalani, coming from your perspective, what are your thoughts on the roots of Hawaiian cuisine?
I very much align with what Kaimana was saying. There is very distinct and very much the time periods are broken up to one. And I've thought about these things a lot, especially the history of Hawaiian food. And growing up, my grandparents are from Kauai, and they were salt harvesters. So I don't know if you know of the red Hawaiian salt that comes from Kauai on the west side, down off of the beach near Hanapepe. The salt pond. Yeah, the salt pond.
My grandma them too.
My family had beds there, and they still have them. My cousin Michael Maderis actually runs those. But my grandma, I grew up with going there during the summers. And my aunties and my uncles, everybody would always take us down there. And I was just a kid back then. And the only experience I had was helping them with the water and taking the water and putting it in the beds and this and that and waiting for those salt crystals. But I remember listening to my grandpa Louis. Our family is the Ni'au Haleakala family, and that they're the ones that had those salt ponds, and we used to take care of the salt ponds. But my grandpa used to teach us that salt was pretty much the basis. So we talking about poke and stuff like that, and we talk about the Hawaiian salt that we use, and he taught me about the color, why the color of our salt there was red, because it was getting the red dirt from the allied there near the ocean and the dirt. And it was very special to Kauai. And he taught me the principles of how that salt cannot be sold. And I even have some salt sitting here in my office that my auntie brought the last time, harvested from when my grandfather was still around. And that salt is super, super almost sacred. Like that salt is hard to find, and it can only be given away. So we give to family and stuff like that. But I remember learning the principles of ancient and just gaining that perspective of how important the food was. And I have a friend of mine today that sails on Hokulea, and they talk about when they sail and the food provisions and what Kaimana said about everything that came to the islands when Polynesians used to sail on those canoes was brought on the canoe. They didn't bring animals and stuff like that because they had to sail. And so they fished and they brought whatever they had, and salt was a big part of that, using to preserve. And so that would be my input in the ancient, just reaching back to those ancient times. And I know the Hawaiian salt that's sold today has that red tinge, but it's not harvested the same way. But I know that process, and I understand where our roots are and humble beginnings. Like these people anciently We were hunters, we were gatherers. Most of the time, the men did all the cooking, the women were gathering, they were farming. And it's just amazing to think of our roots and how simple the roots. And we can go into talking about taro and we can talk about all of those things. But my experience and my input would be from the salt, because that my family is actually tied to that. And those areas. Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
No, definitely appreciate that insight and you sharing with that. Here's the cool thing. Kaimana really dove into a little bit of the history aspect and shared a lot of knowledge that maybe a lot of people aren't really familiar with that in depth. And talking about poke with Brunson and the straight fish, and then bringing it up to the Hanapepe salt with Kalani. That kind of leads us into the next question. And the next question is talking about the unique ingredients used to create Hawaiian dishes. And I guess when we say Hawaiian in this podcast, we can probably stick with more Hawaii local type foods. But what ingredients come off the top of your head? You got ulu, you got Hanapepe salt, maybe inamona, things like that. But what ingredients come to your minds?
Uncle, you're on mute, Uncle.
All right. Yeah, salt is one thing. That's important. And then, of course, the seaweed, the ogo, the limo.
Yeah.
And then the limo kohu. That's important. Either red salt, white salt for certain things. Basically, true Hawaiian cooking is just simple.
Yeah.
No major anything. The soyu and all that came in the late 1800s when all the pockets and the Japanese and Chinese guys came over. So that's when shoyu came over. And that's when the rice started, right?
Yeah.
Right? Since I had family working in the cane fields back then in Wailoa, right? They all brought lunches in these canisters, these iron canisters. You take them apart, rice and whatever, had adobo in there and all kinds of stuff. I think that's how the plate lunch stuff got started.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe the hamburger steak, it started in Japan and brought over to Hawaii because the real hamburger steak got a lot of stuff in it. Got shoyu in it, got ajinomoto in it, got onions in it. That's the true, to me, hamburger steak, I think it started by the Japanese. And that's how everything got started from those immigrants that came over in the 1890s. And that's how, really all the mom and pop stores, right?
Yep.
Japanese run, cone sushi, maki sushi in the cases. You go in there and buy them. And then the okazuya shops got started like that.
I'm glad you brought those points up because that's something that I really appreciate. When either me and you are talking personally, or I see on your Chef Brunson page on Facebook, Brunson does a great job explaining the ingredients and really explaining it in a way that it's easy for a lot of people or even majority to understand. But he also does share a lot of the history of the ingredients, and learning what you're cooking, to me, just makes it taste that much better, right? Coming into Kalani here from a business owner standpoint with Mo Betta's, you guys started Mo Betta's in 2008, and I believe you're at 50 locations, right?
Correct. Yeah.
50 right now. One thing that I do see and I do appreciate with Mo Betta's is you guys really do pay a lot of respect to the past through whether it's social media or your decor, or even, I wouldn't say it's ancient, but partnering with Aloha Shoyu for some of your items and things like that. So from a business standpoint, how do you incorporate ingredients that you can't lack on? It might cost you a little more, but that's the right ingredient.
For us, it was really important when we first started. Me and my brother, we wanted to keep it somewhat real. So we knew we were starting a restaurant here in Utah. So we started in Bountiful, Utah in 2008. And we wanted to share a concept that was close to our heart. And it was tied to when we grew up. So we grew up during the 70s and the 80s. And what a wonderful time. What a wonderful time to grow up in the islands and partake of all these food. And I talk about spending summers on Kauai with my grandparents and my aunties and uncles. And it was a great time. I meet people here in Utah that all they talk about is, Elvis Presley and Waikiki and all the touristy stuff and pineapples. And I didn't grow up with that. Like, I don't know. In fact, I give them that puzzled look. I don't know what you guys talking about. That's not the Hawaii I grew. And so we wanted to share. And I get that Kaimana was talking about, we were in a time, just a very specific time, growing up in the 70s and the 80s. I get it. Hawaii had this big boom, this tourism and all of that, but I didn't grow up with that. So we wanted to share, and that's why our restaurants, now that you guys know my Kauai connection, that's why our restaurants look very plantation. It looks very much Kauai. My grandparents grew up in a plantation home, and learning the history of the plantation. And Brunson was talking about how the food came about. That's where all these people came from. They came from the plantations because they came and immigrated to Hawaii to work in the sugarcane and work in the pineapple fields and all of that. And so I tie our restaurant to that, and I tie our food to that, because it is a part of history. That's whether we like it or not, I know there's a lot of, right now, the pineapple is not a symbol of Hawaii. And I try to teach people that. I teach our customers that. I'm like, we don't have pineapple on our menu. Pineapple is not Hawaiian. Yeah. That didn't come from Hawaii. Yeah. And they're like, really? But we love pineapple. And I'm like, then you can go someplace else and buy it, because I didn't grow up with that. Yeah. I would eat a mango and guava before I touch a pineapple. Yep. I explain to people, and I don't want people to think I'm some angry Hawaiian. I try to teach them, and I'm like, I love pineapple. I will eat pineapple, but that's not what I'm trying to share with you guys. I'm trying to share with you guys the food that I grew up back in the 70s, and we're trying to keep it real that way. I get the whole tourist thing, and there's a lot of those out there. Yep. There's a lot of those out there. But we're trying to tie it to what we grew up with. We grew up with aloha shoyu. We grew up with rice. Grew up with poi. I wish we could get poi. Poi is so hard to get even when you're in Hawaii. So I'm not going to pull that resource away from Hawaii, because our people there need that. But we can teach them. We can teach them just little things, and talking about pineapple and stuff. And my customers always come at me. They're like, how come you guys don't have pineapple on them? Sorry, that's not the Hawaii we grew up with. We grew up with a very different Hawaii. And you know what? People appreciate that. I think they do. People, when they learn and they understand, we didn't grow up that way, and they get it.
Yeah, I think it's all on the approach, how you present it to the person. And that brings us to Kaimana, because from a cultural standpoint, I'm sure you could go days on the topic. But before we get into that, I tell you, Kahuku has to be one of the most proud schools out there, because no matter, I'm on a podcast, I'm in a personal conversation, I'm on social media, somebody's got to come in with the Red Raiders for life. We got to throw it out to Peter out there saying, aloha, Kaimana. Aloha. Kaimana, quickly before we get deeper into the ingredient thing, I have a question, and it's something that is close to me, but I have a friend out here, her name is Jenna, and out here in Minnesota. And one of the questions that I have and she has is, with a celiac or gluten-free, off the top of your head, do you have any ingredient suggestions that could help someone enjoy Hawaiian cooking, local food?
Matt, really, the only thing really prevalent in Hawaiian food that has gluten is shoyu.
Okay, yep.
And now they have another option, right? Tamari. Japanese brand Tamari provides that. But otherwise, you have to remember, we didn't have flour in Hawaii.
Yes.
So there was no issue with gluten. We didn't have flour. And the rise of celiac and the rise of that issue, it's not that it didn't happen in the past. I think that through technology and science, we can identify that as an issue now.
Yep.
But before I go to the next, I want to respond to what Kalani said and Uncle Bronson, because what Kalani made a point is, Uncle Bronson grew up in the 60s and 70s. Kalani grew up in the 70s and 80s. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. So I have a different relationship with pineapple because my uncle worked in Wahiawa at the pineapple plantation. So the same way, and this is the same way you can say pineapple is not Hawaiian, neither is shoyu. Shoyu is not Hawaiian. Neither is rice, not Hawaiian. Neither is mac salad, not Hawaiian. So you can see, depending on where you grew up and what time you grew up, we had access to different foods, right? We didn't start putting lihimui powder on things till the last 20 years. And through the rise of lihimui powder, which somebody took the seed out, grounded up the lihimui, and it became our version of the Latin chamoy, things evolved even within our 3 generations, and we overlap in generations right here on this podcast. I do serve pineapple at my restaurant, but I educate people. The Hawaiian word for pineapple is halakahiki, which means fruit from a foreign land. So I think that we as ambassadors of food and stewards of the culinary industry and also stewards of the Hawaiian culture, I think one important kuleana is no matter what we serve and no matter what our approach is, that we allow for a teaching moment. Because I serve pineapple, but I tell people, hey, pineapple is not Hawaiian. It's not from Hawaii. Now, pineapple was a huge industry. It fed a lot of Hawaiian mouths. It gave people money. It supported my uncle. So I'm not mad at the pineapple, but I'm mad at people that call pineapple on pizza Hawaiian. So we tread a bit living on the mainland. We have to tread this line carefully because we don't want to come across as high mocks, and because even the 3 of us have a different growing up in Hawaii experience. I'm lucky because my parents were 14 and 15 when I was born, which means my grandparents had a lot to do with my upbringing. And my grandparents are a little bit older than Uncle Bronson. So I had the lucky thing of growing up with multiple generations because my parents were so young. And people my age didn't fish for aholehole in the streams in Hauula, right? Because I did that with my dad, with my grandpa, and in the Iwa and all of that kind of stuff. But I say that in that no matter where we come from and whatever our opinion or wherever our perspective is in Hawaiian food, I think that the education part is the most important, because starting a conversation about salt and about why pineapple and about the original versions of poke, that we probably never ate the first version of poke that our ancestors ate. So I just wanted to make those comments because what is fascinating about this panel is we all grew up in a different Hawaii. Sorry that I'm off my soapbox.
No, those are great points. And I have a feeling, knowing Brunton and Kalani, that's the angle that they're coming from. That angle, that's the perspective that they're coming from too. And everything is a teachable moment. It truly is. And being stewards of the culture, as you put it, is a great way to put it. And we do carry the kuleana to make sure that we are good stewards. That brings us to the next topic. And I think this is a great lead into the next topic, challenges of authenticity. So, talking about teachable moments and being good stewards, making sure that we're being pono in our conversations with folks. And we'll use pineapple as an example because it's what we were just talking about. And not really being negative about it, but letting folks know that, hey, pineapple does not make the dish Hawaiian. So what are some challenges that you folks have identified, and how have you approached them as far as authenticity in dishes?
I'll start with I have a restaurant on the East Coast, Uncle's Hawaiian Grinds. We opened in 2016. And I wanted to be as authentic as I possibly could. I wanted a place that I could bring my grandma, my grandpa, and be proud of it. And I would be proud if they could come. They're past by now, but I had to, first of all, I had to realize I get every ingredient. For the first year, my dad was buying luau leaves in Kahalu'u, taking it to Department of Ag. They got to go through all of them, put them in one box and send them, because I wanted lau lau on the menu. It's one of my favorite foods in the world. But I realized that it was a waste. I'm not serving Hawaiians in my restaurant. 1 out of every 500 people is Hawaiian. So I need to use this restaurant as a way to introduce Hawaiian food and Hawaiian cuisine to Po'ehaole, but also be proud of what I'm serving as well. So balancing traditionalism and authenticity with a business. I think Kalani has maybe a different experience because get choke Polynesians in Utah. you can be more real in Utah. I spent a lot of time there. So his demographic might be a little bit different, or the percentages might be different. I'm serving 3% Hawaiians and Polynesians and 97% Howlett. So I've had to make some give and take here and there, but it comes with the territory. You got to go. I try to get my produce from farms within 100 miles from my restaurant, because I grew up in a makeshift farm. My grandpa had a farm. My fish comes from Cape May. It's the closest port to my restaurant in New Jersey. My ahi is driven straight from there, straight to my restaurant from the boat. So I try to do those things to show how food is important and sourcing is so important to us. But I've definitely had to make some give and take. And I refuse to serve poi because I'm going to waste the poi. But yeah, I'd love to hear uncles and Kalani's the kind too.
Kalani, any input on challenges of authenticity?
With Kaimana. And I'm sure Uncle Bronson will agree with this as well. At the end of the day, each of us is sharing a culture and sharing that aloha, that brand of aloha that we know. And we're sharing it with people that mostly are not Hawaiian. These are people that, and I would hope that's who we're trying to share this with, because at the end of the day, we're business people. Like, we're trying to make a living. And so we're sharing our culture, we're sharing our aloha, and each of it is a different brand of aloha. And you know what? That's okay. That's what Hawaii is all about. You hear people talk about how do all these cultures live on this small little islands in the middle of the ocean and they get along. Of course we get along because we share aloha. And at the end of the day, it's that love of community. It's that love of food. And that's why we share our food.
Yep.
I could venture to say that Chef Brunson and Chef Kaimana, at the very least, you do this out of love. That's what probably drove you to become a chef, because you love to share and manifest that through food. And it really is. And I don't know how much more authentic it can be than sharing that aloha through our food. And Kamana's right. We do have different periods, different time, and teaching people that putting pineapple on pizza doesn't make it Hawaiian. We all can laugh about that. And we do laugh about that. Local people, we laugh about that. But it doesn't, at the end of the day, they still sell that pizza in Hawaii and we all eat it. Like, we don't care. Like, and it doesn't, because we all aloha each other, right? We aloha each other, and it's important that we teach. And I love that Kaimana teaches the Haole people wherever he is. You just teach them, and the more they know and the more they feel aloha, at the end of the day, we're teaching aloha. We're sharing our brand of aloha, and that's what people remember. They might eat the food and they might remember this and that or whatever, but it's how they feel. And at the end of the day, it's aloha that we're sharing and that we're giving to people. So that's what I would say is, as we try to be authentic in different time periods. And it's hard to narrow that in. And I have so many local people that come in, they're like, how come you guys don't have beef stew and poi and poke and this and that? And I'm like, I tell them honestly, I'm lazy. That's why I don't want to cook that much. So I just cook what we cook, and that's it. And I let somebody else share their aloha through a different type of authenticity or a different menu. And that's what makes the world go around. Like, we can all share that aloha. But I think at the end of the day, we're sharing aloha and we're sharing love through foods.
Here's a cool thing that I always think about too. When it comes to authenticity, we see chains out there, or we see establishments, eateries out there that they're just clearly marketing Hawaii and aloha and things like that. And it's just a profit mobile. And like you guys mentioned, you're in business. You're not in business to give things away, but there is that certain level of authenticity. And Kaimana, actually, both of you guys brought up us coming from different times, and Kaimana out on the East Coast and Kalani in the Utah area, Brunson in the California area. We do all have different people, right? But one thing that I want to point out to the viewers right now is this: when it comes to authenticity, you guys aren't posting pictures of jumping in fake lays and grass skirts and taste the aloha and think there's that, right? When we know that's not authentic, right? And then you have Kalani and Mobetta's, who partners with local businesses to the best that you can. You folks partner with Aloha Shoyu and do some things there. And then when it comes to Kaimana, we look at how his focus on sourcing, right? Farms within 100 miles, where his fish is coming from. Those are all local ways, right? So even though you're in the East Coast and you're in Utah, when we break the business down and we actually look at how you're doing things, in my eyes, that shows me the authenticity as well.
It's Pono. Yeah, that's Pono. That's the Pono way to do it.
So talking about authenticity, we know that everything in life evolves, right? Whether it's food, language, the way we learn things, the way I learned 1 + 1 in 1992, and the way that my kids learn 1 + 1 - 1 divided by 3, and that whole new style of math in 2005 is two completely different things, but in the end, it equals 2. So when it comes to innovation through fusion with Hawaiian food, I just want to get everybody's thoughts on that. And we can start with Chef Brunson, coming back from really understanding the old school ways, we could say, and seeing how things have evolved into different fusion and things. What are your thoughts on that? It's a creative, right? Chefs are creative, and they come up with.
Stay on mute, Uncle. You're on mute.
Yeah, I created, but it's a created dish. So they take old school stuff and then do the fusion. And then sooner or later, that trend disappears and goes back to the old school stuff.
Didn't we just talk about this the other day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Example is when I opened up John Dominus in Newport Beach. I tell you, this place is just packed every night. Over $2 million a month we were making. I'm swear, from Thursday through Sunday, 550 dinners going out there. That's massive. But again, back in those days, this was in 1988, and the restaurant was just completely filled with haole people. But they like that kind of food because it's easy for them to eat, and it's innovative, especially when you take the steamed fish out to the table and pour that hot peanut oil on it, and it starts to sizzle. So there's a character that when you do that, people see that. Oh, I gotta have this the next time. So the next time they come in here and they tell me, "Hey, you guys still get the steam? What was it baby opaka paka? We used to get the 2-pounders, and then serve it like that out at the dinner table, And then also doing the poke at John Dominus. Back then, the shoyu, kadoya, sesame oil, and ogo, and a little bit of it going out there for the poke. Yeah, the fusion does work up here. Almost everybody has it over here in California. You go to any of these plate lunch places, they got it. But then they always ask me, how do I go back to making old-fashioned beef stew? So I teach them how to do it, and I said, just use the correct meat to do it. So I teach them how to use a chuck flap tail. So that's the boneless short ribs. And I tell you, they only do it once a week, but they're getting $17 for that plate. And I said, you sell out. That's it. Then other things, like on my Chef Bronson, I'm actually showing people how to make lao, because the taro leaf is available here in California. I go down to Long Beach and pick it up from El Rubio Market. So I have a couple videos on Chef Bronson showing people how to salt salmon, how to salt butterfish, and then what I put in the pork shoulder, pork belly, taro, the stem of the leaf, things like that, how to make it and fold it. Of course, I don't have tea leaf up here. I'm not going to spend $1 a tea leaf to go get it. So I just wrap it up in parchment paper and foil, and then I steam it for like almost 4 hours because it's got the stem in it. But I say the fusion is good for up here. I know in Honolulu they got it too because of that regional cooking stuff that
The
came
HRC.
on, right? With Peter Merriman, Alan Wong, those guys, Chef Marvel, those guys are, I say it's cool to have that little bit fusion here and there, but then sometimes it dies out on certain places and then go back to the old fashioned stuff again. Yeah.
Kaimana, from your standpoint, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a very different. Hawaii is the birthplace of fusion when it comes to the Pacific Rim. What is the most
Yeah.
quintessential snack we eat in Hawaii? Spam musubi. That's fusion. You think when Japanese saw us putting spam in rice wrapped with nori, they were flipping the out. So this attitude that often prevails, our fellow locals, and I catch people on Facebook complaining about this and this. Lomi Salmon, nothing in Lomi Salmon is from Hawaii. That's all fusion. Chicken long rice, only the chicken had in Hawaii. That's fusion. The stuff, Manapua, the way that it was made in Hawaii, is a fusion of char siu bao. So us to turn our head up from, oh, that's fusion, that's hard because it makes us hypocritical as Hawaiians, right? The most popular things we eat in Hawaii is a fusion. And we should be proud of that because you know what that means? Like the pidgin language is a fusion. Pidgin language is a fusion. Our food is fusion. And it represents all the important cultures and immigrants that build the Hawaii that we know today. When I hear about, now, my restaurant is not plate lunch style. My restaurant is a little bit more kind of fancier Hawaiian food. So I'm making lihi moi bear blanc and lily koi reduction and this kind of stuff. And that's neither here or nor there, but fusion is just a melting pot of cultural and culinary traditions. When the Puerto Ricans came to Hawaii in the 1900s and they brought their concept of pastele, they didn't have all the ingredients in Hawaii needed to make pastele. So they had to fuse Hawaii available ingredients with the institution of the pastele that goes back centuries, and they had to make the new dish. That becomes a fusion. That's the patele we know today. Go to Puerto Rico. When you eat patele, it's different. I embrace the concept. If that helps us reach more people and sparks a conversation about what are these two culinary traditions that you're combining, that's a teachable moment. And that's my perspective on fusion. And I would love to hear Kalani's as well.
And I'll tell you before we jump into Kalani, because I can see he's got something to say. Great point. And that's something that actually someone told me, Kaimana, a few years ago. I was asking questions, right? I'm in Minnesota in the Midwest, and I want to go to the Asian store and buy hollow root and just try growing it. Our grow season here is so short, but what I'm understanding is I can at least harvest leaves a couple of times and then learn how to do the process, things like that. I was so set on acquiring a specific type of kalo that I overlooked everything. And I actually had one of the families that we first met when we moved here about 30 years ago, a Native American family, their mom looked me in the eyes and said, "Great. What would your ancestors do if they literally just showed up to Minnesota right now and they wanted to plant this? What would they do? They're not going to find a way back to Hawaii and bring it with them. They're going to find it here. They're going to source it here, and they're going to figure it out from there." So that's definitely a great point that you brought up, to stand back and talk about fusion and it bringing cultures together. What would the ancestors do? That's what they did. They brought everything together. And we can go back to plantation days and talk about how the sharing and things like that brought it together. But that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Kalani, what's on your...
I would just add that, and I'm in complete agreement. Fusion is inevitable, and what a beautiful thing it is that we have fusion. When I first moved to Utah back in 1998, man, I got sick of Mexican food and burgers so fast, and I just couldn't find the variety. And coming from Hawaii, we have that variety, and how blessed we are to grow up there and to have fusion. And I don't know why other cultures don't have more fusion, but maybe it's because they have it in Hawaii. And Hawaii local people, we just love to take things and dissect it and just make it make it our own. And how beautiful that is, and how that aligns with what I spoke of earlier about aloha. Aloha is just love, and it really is inevitable. I think as we move along, and every time I go home to Hawaii, there's always something brand new that's come out. That's the newest thing. And man, I embrace it. I love running into that. And who created this? Who created this? You just take the Spam Musubi. How many different Musubis is out there today? It's crazy. You can't just leave it alone. Hawaiian people, we just don't leave things alone. We got to mess with it. We got to make it better. And it's wonderful that we share that with each other. And that gets all around. And just in pastries alone, you think about all the different pastries. I cannot find pastries like that anywhere in the world. But you go to Hawaii, you have all these different pastries, and it's so wonderful that the culture is that way, that fusion is embraced that way. And I know our waistlines pay for it because everybody's all into the fusion. And that's a hard thing, but how wonderful that is. And when people learn about Hawaii's fusion culture and cuisine, it's just a beautiful thing. And I tell others out there, when they're starting out, I have a lot of people that come and they're like, man, how do I start a restaurant? I'm like, man, just dip back into what your grandma used to make. There's fusion all around us. And it's so easy to share that with others. It really is. Share the aloha. Don't think I only want to keep this for myself. We share it. We share it with everybody, and everybody wins. Everybody wins when we share our fusion. And it's wonderful. What a wonderful world. It really is a wonderful world when we can share that. That's my 2 cents on that.
Talking about food, I'm getting hungry. I tell you, Brunton brings something up here funny. Burgers no can compete with a good bowl of Simon and barbecue stick. I don't know. I grew up in Hawaii. I don't know if anybody remembers Bob Simon on Hawaii by City Mill. I remember going with my dad after baseball, Little League baseball. One thing to this day, I don't get it. Why does a bowl of Simon and a hamburger deluxe taste so good together?
That dashi, bro.
This brings me to a question I think a lot of people would be interested to hear. Brunson, if you had to pick one dish or one meal, what's your favorite?
Yeah, it's going to be that Simon.
Simon.
With cone sushi.
Which your opai dashi?
Opai dashi, that's why nobody makes the real dashi anymore. Too expensive. You got to have shrimp shells. You got to have dry opai to make the real Simon dashi.
Yep.
$40 a pound for opai? I don't think so, man. But in my days, Dad used to take us and go pick up the Simon with a pot.
Yep.
Never have takeout containers. And the best place I know of back in the days was Kinao Simon, right there on Kinao Avenue. But a Water Supply. There's a place called Kinao Simon. But to me, Simon, man, no can beat Simon. You know?
We got
and
Simon.
Then the pockets would add the wonton in it, right?
And like Kalani said, we just got to capitalize on it. So now we got hot mustard with it.
That's right. Hot mustard and shoyu, and gotta be Coleman's mustard.
Kalani, one favorite food, meal, dish?
I always go back to traditional Hawaiian food. I love my poi. And I would add some spicy poke on top of it. I crave that all the time, and I can never get away from that. I love my poi, and I love
Kaimana.
I am a raw fish guy, man.
Are you?
I can give up every food. I can give up my pork and my beef and everything, but I can never give up raw fish. And the only thing better than eating a bowl of raw, whether it's poke or sashimi or a nice piece of toro, the only thing better than that is eating it with somebody you love and who appreciate just as much as you. Yeah. So I love eating poke with my brothers and my dad because they getting the same experience I feeling inside. When I take that poke bite, that's the same how they feel inside. And that's what Kalani said is right. We are ambassadors of Hawaiian food. And in turn, we're ambassadors of Hawaiian culture and the mechanism and the canvas we paint on is a plate. And I take that kuleana so seriously. So to hear from Brunson and from Uncle Brunson and Kalani and to hear their experience, man, It's so enriching, and it's so amazing that we share this commonality, even if we come from 3 different generations. Food is magic. Food is a connector of cultures around the world. It is one of the few institutions in life that connect every single people in the world. Food and music.
Yep.
And yeah, that's what it's about.
Definitely, 100%. Before we wrap up here, Brunson, where can people find you? What
Well,
social media?
I'm on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
So to just look for Chef Brunson on Facebook
Okay.
and then join it. And then it comes up in my email that so and so wants to join Chef Brunson. And we just approve it. And then once in a while my wife puts out the rules and regulations. But really it that website is just about food, especially local style food. If you're gonna picture beef tomato, throw them on there. I know everybody eat beef tomato or corned beef and onions, right? So it's nothing fancy on there. Maybe once in a while I might do an emulsion sauce like I did the other day with my anniversary breakfast. Yeah, I made shrimp with lemon butter caper sauce. Yeah. And so I do stuff like that. I try not to do too much emulsified sauces because hard to do those kind of sauces. Yeah. Once in a while I might do hollandaise from scratch, and I'll do a video how to start that hollandaise from scratch and go step by step doing it just to satisfy my wife with eggs Benedict. I got to keep the Portuguese happy.
We got to say happy anniversary to Brunson.
Yeah, mahalo.
And yeah, check him out on Facebook, Chef Brunson. I appreciate the content that he shares and the recipes, and it's really old school, and he'll share with you. So thank you very much, Brunson.
Yeah. Any recipes you guys want, just send your email in Messenger.
Yep.
And because everything is in Word, I just attach it
Yep.
and send it out. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the good thing about that is not a lot of people want to share recipes, and Brunson does openly share them. You know,
I don't have on tight okole, bro.
Yep. And the good thing is that if there's a lot of interest on a specific recipe, he'll do a video and show you step by step how to do it.
Yeah, so I go
That's
live
great.
when I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Kalani, how can people find you, Kalani?
The website is mobetas.com, MOBETAH.com. And people can find me on social media too. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and reach out. I love to meet people. We're in our restaurant is in 7 states, and it's always great to connect with local people and find everybody. And so if you hear of Mobetas coming to your state, please come meet us. We try to make it to all the openings and just to spread the aloha and meet everybody. And I'm amazed to see how many local people are all over the place.
Yep.
And it's fun. It's just fun to connect. We basically all family because we love to eat and we're from the islands. That's what connect us. So I love to meet everybody. So yeah, reach out and say hello. Love to meet everybody.
Congrats on your 50th location.
Mahalo.
But at the same time, it's tough. If you're at 50 right now, do you stop and just hold that 50 as strong as you can, or do you keep growing?
No, the business has evolved, and we have a CEO that runs it, and it's very much not the mom and pop that me and my brother started a long time ago. And we get it. We understand that that's what it is, and we love spreading aloha that way. If we can reach other communities and bring just a small taste of island living to their neighborhood, then so be it. And we love to do it. So yeah,
couple closing things on Mobetas. Number one, you can't miss it. The 21 window will be out there, right?
Oh.
You guys take it out there. So you guys get some really cool bugs that you go. And I still have not been able to put down that ikolu plate yet. It's 2 days worth of food for me easily. So definitely check out Mobetas if you're in the area.
Mahalo.
Chef Kaimana, where can folks find you?
KaimanaChee.com to book any kind of event or some consulting. Uncles or eatatuncles.com is the restaurant website. My Instagram handle is Kaimana77. And I cannot wait to visit Kalani's restaurant, and I cannot wait to cook with Uncle Bronson. I know our paths will cross. And if you guys are ever in the East Coast, please let me know and stop by. We have a big Hawaiian community here. I have Halau Nohona Hawaii here. And so it's such an honor, and I appreciate Matt's invite. And it was so great to talk story with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate everybody coming out. Kaimana, I know a question that a lot of people are going to ask. Are people able to bring you in for guest appearances?
Yeah, anytime.
Things like that? Okay.
Anytime.
And they just reach you at those
Yeah,
sites?
Kaimana,
then?
yep.
Perfect. We got to do this again. We could make this.
No, I know. And I want to say, Uncle Brunson, I love that you share recipes, and I have that. I also have that philosophy, right? When you hold something so tight, the stuff gonna crumble. You open up and let them fly, it's gonna get better. And I'm all about. I want to taste somebody's Hawaiian bread pudding better than mine. I want to eat somebody's stuff better than mine, so I know how I can improve. And I feel that from Uncle Brunson. I feel that from Kalani. I don't think I'm the best. I don't think my thing is the best. I look for one better one because that's the only way to get better. And by Uncle sharing his aloha through his hard work and all of that, that is, Uncle, that is not, especially in the generation you grew up in. Unfortunately, amongst chefs, and I've been around this world working with chefs, that's not the common thing. But I think from Hawaiians, that is, and that's such a gift, Uncle. So I wanted mahalo and recognize that is so amazing.
My parents, that's what they taught me, especially my dad, being almost full Hawaiian blood. You gotta share.
Yeah.
And my mom too. My mom was real pake, but she said, hey, no, come to somebody's house empty-handed. Yeah. She gonna hit me on the head with a chopstick, man. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was taught to share. And that's right. If you don't share, all the old style stuff gonna disappear.
Yeah.
Which I think it has already. Because I get people emailing me, how you make this old school? And then it literally takes me 2 hours to make one recipe.
Yeah.
I'm at the computer every morning, 3:30 in the morning, because that's what time I get up to go to the gym.
Nice.
And I have to look at these emails and really look and see if I have it. Look, the other day, I just posted, I said, hey, I finally found my mother's kauyuk recipe. Holy smoke, I haven't made kauyuk in a long time, but it's going to come up soon.
We're gonna save that one for the next episode. We're gonna we got to do it again, guys. We got to do this one again. I appreciate everybody taking the time out to join us and be a part of this. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you guys, everything that you guys do out there. So mahalo plenty, you guys.
Okay.
Mahalo,
bro. Shoot. Okay. Mahalo.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it Cedar Lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand,
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No work out for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
So if you put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course, cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No work out for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories stories left to tell. Even if we have to ourselves, can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell. Even if we have to ourselves, can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell. Even if we have to ourselves, can keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.